Travis Wingoodsell. I do see a lot of people when the last days or Armageddon are mentioned, Christians will cling to the book of Daniel as well as Revelation. They try to merge the two together, which is a mistake, because they're separate books talking about separate things. Nonetheless, people do it. But I thought I'd go over Abomination of Desolation. It's in Daniel 9, and sort of in 23. And consider the vision at the end there of that verse. So in 24, 70 weeks. And so it in Hebrew, as I'm looking at Blue Letter Bible on one frame and the English program on the other frame, it's sevens and sevens for 70 weeks. And for some reason, Christians in verse 25 turned 7 weeks into 7 years. Don't understand. It says weeks, stick with weeks. The reason why you want to stick with weeks is because Daniel was written post-captivity, post-Babylonian captivity of the Jews from Judah. It's 586 was the second attack or assault by Babylon, which utterly destroyed the temple. And so that needs to be understood when reading over this. But the Babylonians were the ones who invented the 7-day week calendar. And so what you see in Daniel, therefore, when you're seeing weeks with sevens, is what it is. It's 7 in the plural form. So sevens, thus weeks. And it's what's called an anachronism. So that it sets it in a time period that can't go beyond a time period. And so when you see 7, the 7th day in creation, for example, you know that that's an anachronism, because in the beginning there was no calendar system of 7 days a week. That was Babylonian. So the 7th day of rest is the Babylonian superstitious day of no labor. Thus the Jews are considered Semitic because of attributing themselves to Babylon. They got assimilated when they shouldn't have. They forgot their origins in Egypt. But what you have is a little fun thing here where we get Holy of Holies. Kodesh, Kodashim. Phonetics is probably a little off. I'm a little rusty, working on the end of the world and stopping my Paleo Hebrew research. And to Messiah, the Anointed One of the Holy of Holies. which indicates that the temple has been rebuilt. And there's Zadok. They translate it as righteous, don't they? 24, where are we here? Yeah, everlasting righteousness. Olamim. Zadok. Olamim. Everlasting righteousness. Or everlasting high priest. And thus the Holy of Holies, because only the high priest can enter into the Holy of Holies. The Messiah is that person. And they call him the prince here, but it's not the Israel prince. It's Nagid. And so it's often translated as governor. But with Paleo-Hebrew, you have the N, which is the crown of northern Egypt, the G, which is the male symbol, and the D, which is the pyramid mountain shape. So it has lots of symbols as they are picture representations. And so the male mound, thus Geb in Egyptian, and King Geb. Interesting, if you know Egyptian, Geb and Nut have Osiris and Set, which King Set is Satan in Hebrew. He murders Osiris to take over the throne, and Horus is the Messiah who is to come back and restore the temple, restore the kingdom of Egypt from the corrupt rule of his uncle Set, or Satan, King Set. And so the system of governance in societies back then were based on that concept. And Yerushalayim, which is the god Yah of Salem. And anything else I need to cover? Abomination of Desolation. What is interesting is that everybody guesses as to what the abomination of desolation, or the overspreading of abomination, he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured out upon the desolate. End of war, desolations are determined. So that one has to do with war and the desolation that comes from war, but the overspreading of abominations, he shall make it desolate. That will take you to Doctrine and Covenants, section 45, and is it 31? Yep. And there shall be men standing in that generation that shall not pass until they shall see an overflowing scourge, for a desolating sickness shall cover the land. And men shall lift up their voices, curse God and die. And then, but my disciples shall stand in holy places. Here we have in Daniel the Holy of Holies. And Matthew, I believe it's Matthew, not Luke, that talks about, if you didn't catch it, a desolating sickness. That's what we have right now with coronavirus. And it's abominable what Nelson, Herbert, Trump have been doing to us by escalating it to slaughter as many people as possible. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place. It's the Holy of Holies of the temple. The Kodesh Kadashim. And the sacred of sacreds. Holy of Holies. The holy place. Holiest of place. And so they say, whoso readeth, let him understand. And so if you're thinking, well, as Mormons, we'll just go to one of our temples and we'll hide out in there. You're forgetting that the temple needs to be set in order. Section 85, verse 7, by the Messiah, whom Joseph Smith in section 103, verse 16, says is a Mormon who's supposed to rise up among the Mormons and restore the temple and lead Mormons in the Exodus from Utah, which I should talk about that too. Because let them which be in Judah flee into the mountains. And as I've gone over, the prophecies are not in Judah, in Israel. But phonetically speaking, Utah does fit the bill, as people need to flee Exodus from Utah and go to the actual Zion, the city of peace, the land of refuge, in section 45 as well, where it will be the only place where nobody will be at war and everybody needs to flee to it. But it doesn't exist. It's not built. There is no Holy of Holies built. And here we already have the abominable desolation of a sickness that has plagued the land of America. And there's the Sabbath day. It's day of 7. So it's Saturday, right? Not Sunday? How did we get it changed to Sunday? Many false prophets shall rise. Yeah, Mormons don't understand that can only be LDS Church. Love of many wax cold. That's an abomination. So, yeah, that's pretty much what Daniel is talking about. It's not really as complicated as people make it. He does go over time frames in terms of weeks, not 7 years, as many people love to do a special little chart and show a timeline of when the rapture is to occur and all that stuff. When he comes out of the heaven on a flying horse. That's a sign in the heavens. I did that for you. It was yesterday morning I did it. Found it. I'm surprised I didn't see it, but Pegasus is up above on the screen, so I have to know to pull it down. And it came to me yesterday. Look for the Pegasus constellation. Look for the Pegasus constellation. right above Pisces. And so, yeah, the total solar eclipse on 8 April 2024, that's the date, the day and the hour. Sorry, Matthew, wrong again. But that's pretty much what is going on in Daniel, and why Matthew refers to it, and Joseph Smith explains his variation of it, that a virus is the cause of the desolation, and the need for an exodus, which Joseph Smith says it's this year. Running out of time, Joseph, unless you're talking about the Jewish year. But pray that it's not in winter, and hopefully there's nobody pregnant. But yeah, our stats for today, I mean, we had 13.7 on the last Sunday, 21.3, 32.2, 20.61, 26.6, and then today's reporting was 23.3. Does that count yet as a desolating sickness in Judah of America? And again, I remind you, O Babylon, we bid thee farewell. We're going to the mountains of Ephraim to dwell. They're referring to America as Babylon. And so, section 1, verse 16, which was not decoded by the church service missionaries who completed the triple combination in 1981 for that version of the scriptures with the footnotes and Topical Guide Bible Dictionary. They didn't decode this. They decoded other words, but they missed Babylon. Shall wax old and perish in Babylon, even Babylon the Great, which shall fall. It doesn't use the past tense, it uses the future tense. And very determinative, it will happen in the future. And so the composer of Ye Elders of Israel understood Babylon to be America, which indicates that's how Joseph Smith was teaching it. So when Joseph talked about the white horse prophecy, as many of you know it, he was always talking about how America was going to one day be in jeopardy, and the Constitution would be disregarded. That's what's meant by hanging by a thread. I hope nobody else is taking it literally. That's what Christians do, and they are way off base as a result. They don't understand parables, metaphors, symbolisms, and that screws them up. And so if you're thinking Babylon, and you try to justify it by saying, oh, Iraq's going to fall. Oh, Saddam Hussein. No. Look at the context of this passage, Mormons. It's in 14 that people who are not listening to hearing the voice of the Lord, neither the voice of his servants. Interesting how our current prophets did a Hear Him video series. Now pay attention again. Who will not hear him, neither the voice of his servants, neither give heed to the words of the prophets and apostles. And no, it's not the current ones. It's when Joseph is writing this. And so it's the biblical prophets. The prophecies shall be excommunicated. Section 85 also talks about high brethren, the high offices of the church, that's why it's capitalized, are going to be excommunicated and thus not get an inheritance in Zion, where that will be the only place on earth where there will not be war. And then you get into a further explanation of who these people are who are not hearing him, who are walking in their own way in verse 16. For they, again, the pronoun, which causes Mormons to ignore that it's referring to them. Because who can stray from ordinances if you hadn't been given ordinances? Who can break an everlasting covenant if you haven't received the everlasting covenant, had sealed upon you the everlasting covenant? Only Mormons, where there are prophets who claim to hear him but walk in their own way, after the image of their Christus God set on top of the cornerstone of the church. I thought Jesus was the cornerstone and the church was the foundation that directed in all directions from the cornerstone. Oops. I guess he's a heart surgeon and not a construction worker. But you'd think somebody would have told him. Nelson, what you're doing is creating a brand new God. Oh, you are specifically doing that. Oh, because you're hinge pointing from true Mormonism to your own way of Mormonism. And now everybody needs to, what is the new normal? So, yeah. So they seek not the Lord. That's Mormons still. Everybody follows their own Holy Ghost, as they've completely destroyed Moroni chapter 10, verse 4 and 5. And I've gone over that a number of times. So, thus, knowing the calamity which should come upon the inhabitants of the earth, Joseph Smith is established. And is giving warning to us. So, now that Mormons have voted against history, against the prophecy, well, no, they fulfilled prophecy, didn't they? By voting for Trump, Mormons fulfilled prophecy, exposing themselves as wicked. Sorry, Mormons, you can't claim it any other way. Alrighty. So yeah, it's talking about getting to the temple. Let's close by reading that passage in section 45. Question is, where is it? Saints to gather, 63. Okay, you shall hear wars. Okay. The land of inheritance, and it shall be called the New Jerusalem, a land of Salem, peace, a city of refuge, a place of safety for the saints of the Most High God. And the glory of the Lord shall be there, and the terror of the Lord shall also be there, insomuch that the wicked will not come in unto it. And it shall be called Zion. And it shall come to pass among the wicked that every man that will not take his sword against his neighbor must needs flee unto Zion for safety. And there shall be gathered, Nelson, Israel shall be gathered unto it out of every nation under heaven, and it shall be the only people that shall not be at war one with another. And it shall be said among the wicked, let us not go up to battle against Zion, for the inhabitants of Zion are terrible, wherefore we cannot stand. All that happiness and joy. Nobody wants to kill anybody. It shall come to pass that the righteous shall be gathered out from among all nations, and shall come to Zion, singing with songs of everlasting joy. All that singing, noise, noise, noise. His heart grew 10 sizes that day. So the Grinch stole Christmas. And so, yeah, we'll show you the connection to the Messiah, how that's all connected. Rule 3. Nevertheless, if you pollute the air, the land, and the water on your inheritance, you shall be thrown down, for I will not spare Mormons if they pollute their inheritance. Behold, I say unto you, the redemption of Zion must needs come by power. Therefore I will raise up unto my people, those of the covenant, which are Mormons, talking to Joseph Smith, a man who shall lead them like as Moses led the children of Israel. The gathering of Israel. Can't believe he screwed that up. Let God prevail. My hell. That's the Prince of God. Yah, Prince of God, was a given right there in the passage. I mean, yes, there was that interfering section with Jacob being forced to marry 2 women because Rachel was the younger daughter, and Laban said, no, I'm not giving you my younger daughter until the older one's married off. And so he has to work for him in 7s, indicating an anachronism of a Babylonian influence. But, yeah. He usurped the birthright blessing of Esau, and therefore he was then designated to be the father of the Messiah. That's what it's referring to. And that's the office, Mormons. So let's take you to that. Kind of doing a search here. Office, Moses. So section 107, verse 91 and 92. And again, the duty of the president of the office of the high priesthood, that's Nelson, at least as he claims. There's a succession crisis issue that we need to deal with. Is to preside over the whole church, and to be like unto Moses. Behold, here is wisdom, yea, to be a seer, a revelator, and a prophet. Anybody notice anything missing? Translator and a prophet, having all the gifts of God, which he bestows unto the head of the church. So, yeah, a certain office of Moses holder is not a translator, as he exposed himself in conference. Dear God. Okay, so then let's take you to the Kirtland Temple during Passover, when the virus spread through Egypt, causing the Exodus, with Moses leading the Exodus. Kirtland during Passover. Moses gathering keys. Section 110. Let's see. Yeah. Where's Elijah? There he is. He's in 13. So in 11, after this vision closed, the heavens were again opened unto us, and Moses appeared before us, and committed unto us the keys of the gathering of Israel from the four parts of the earth, the Exodus of the latter days, that we've already gone over in other passages around the scriptures. And the leading of the 10 tribes of Israel from the land of the north. And where? To Zion, which will be the only place not at war. This is that whole purpose and point. And Nelson has no intention of leaving Utah, in case you were wondering. And so Mormons have created a latter-day scenario that there are going to be 2 locations for the headquarters of the church. Utah will be for the prophets, and Missouri will be for Jesus, who comes down out of the heavens on his flying horse, rather than being the sign in the heaven, on 8 April 2024, which is the Monday after the weekend which the church is planning on rededicating the Salt Lake Temple, with the inverted pentagram of Lucifer of the Illuminati, of whom Brigham Young was a part of, and murdered Joseph Smith, and then put the symbol of his murdering of Joseph and Hiram on the Nauvoo Temple, dedicated on the anniversary of the Illuminati. And so, yes, again, Mormons create new interpretation of common signs understood by everyone else as a falling star of Lucifer. So, yeah. So if you're not going to understand, you're not going to understand. So when he says the heavens were opened unto us, he's seeing a sign in the heavens. He's not actually getting keys. He's seeing a sign in the heavens. He's telling us the date of when the gathering is to take place. The Messiah of the latter days, the man like Moses, the Mormon, who can translate better than Nelson, who is Israel, the fulfillment of the name, the new name given to Jacob, and is to take place on 8 April 2024. That's when the sign in the heavens occurs, on the back of Pegasus, in the constellation of Pisces, which is the total solar eclipse, which is the 3rd day of darkness. So it all circumscribed into one great whole, didn't it, Mormons? Everything ties together.